Chapter 8. The Lady of Aletha. Illorn and Emilay stood shoulder to shoulder, like giants in a field of bowing men. No one spoke, but Illorn did not see whence the command came. He knelt to look under the platform on which Morgantha stood, and saw Ador hanging lifelessly in a breeze, though he tried his best to ignore the corpse that gently swayed. From yonder, a beauteous fair lady marched through the mud, in a dress of white gold silk that looked to have been sewn by delicate hands under starlight. The men behind her kept the dress lifted so it was not to drag in the mud. She was the most beautiful woman Illorn had ever seen. Her hairs were fine gold curls. Her skin was soft tan that spoke of her love for nature. She had a red balm upon her lips, and wore white gloves upon both her hands, though she were barefooted and otherwise unclad, if it weren't for her dress. Then she spoke. "I say again, stop this madness." Her voice was a drum of equal power and beauty. Illorn's arms grew bumps, and the hairs on the back of the neck stood on end. Her presence in that moment casted away all fear within him, and like moth and flame, he was drawn to her. Morgantha, in utter shame, knelt and said to her, "My sister, I'm sorry though she was quickly interrupted. "Who are these men you have brought to my place? Men whom you have sentenced to death without my counsel or judgment?" Morgantha looked up to her sister. "These are bandits, my sister Ariel. They prove themselves an irksome threat." "An irksome threat?" Ariel shouted. "Pretty bandits, an irksome threat to the Arnhart family. I see one famished boy, and another one too fat to jump, and two old men, too lame to fight proper." "Yes, my sister, but one of these men is Oddmere, the infamous traitor of our operation," Morgantha retorted. "You were not granted the use of the iron law to smite down pretty men and children for your amusement. Is this truly what our house means to you?" Morgantha had not the words to respond. She knelt, clutching her fist. Ariel grabbed her chin and forced her to look into her eyes. "Do this again, sister, and I shall will you forever away. I say this with my troth. I will do this thing if you disappoint me again. Now, loose those whom you have not yet slain, and bring them to my place for judgment, for I do not at all trust the words you have given me this day." Then Morgantha stood and cut the noose from Oddmere's neck, and he turned to Uriel to kiss her hand, though Uriel stared upon him loathsomely. "Forgive me, my lady, for thy graciousness. I have only a dirty kiss to sully your fine hand," said Oddmere. Uriel looked upon him and seethed. "Do not feign your love for me, bird-lover. Or shall I say you, nay, Oddmere, lover of dead maids?" The old man knelt still as his face gan to redden with rage. The lady then grabbed his chin and noticed the black bandages upon his face, and how they were put to him so crudely. "Whence came you the wound that brought you such ill healing?" And Oddmere to her, though with his anger still within him, "Forgive me, for I—" He stopped. "Go on," said Uriel. "This wound was delivered by your sister, my lady, and for such a hurt I paid with mine eye, and now I have only one to see." Uriel grimaced and stood silently in great disgust. Then she to him, "I shall see that you are healed properly ere your judgment, which shall be separate and weighed differently than your other party members." "Thank you, my lady Uriel," said Oddmere, and she then bade him to her place of healing afore approaching Illorn and Emilay. She smiled too much her own surprise upon seeing them, but stopped before Bajor, who was in mourning upon a puddle of rain and woe. She knelt and touched his shoulder and grabbed his elbow to aid him in standing. "Was this your Sib whom my sister has slain?" And he but nodded, for his crying was too great for words to be uttered. "What was his name, if you can tell me?" Bajor wiped his eyes and his nose, looked into her eyes with his eyes beset with yellow styes, and answered her. "His name was Ador. What a cruel fate! Pray remove his body. I durst not look upon it in the manner of which it is." Thus the Lady Uriel straightened her shoulders, and without question willed it so, and said furthermore, "For your loss, a tree shall be grown, and nether that tree shall your brother rest in its roots, so that he may live again, but in different form." In further sorrow, but now too grace, Bajor hugged Uriel and thanked her 100 times. Her beauty, to him then, was made ever brighter by her kindness. Lastly, she told him, "Now I will leave you to my place of healing, where you shall accompany the traitor and await my coming." Bajor then smiled and thanked her again. Uriel then turned to Illorn and Emilay. "And who are you?" she asked them. Illorn could not dare look away from her. She smelled the sweet herbs, and never had he ever seen a woman wearing a red balm upon her lips. "Are you bleeding?" asked Emilay. He scratched his head, and the woman blushed with her hand to her mouth. "You must be curious of my balm. You may touch it if you so wish." She bent her knees, and Emilay wiped her bottom lip with his finger, leaving a red mark upon his hand. He tasted it and spat. "It is nothing pleasant," said he. "Why have something so bitter on your lips if not to eat it, though it is pretty, if I might add?" Uriel laughed. "That is why, for it is pretty. Now come, the both of you, away from this place. I wish to stay here no longer, but it is much too cold and early to be without. You are hurt and deserve better after having been on such a dark road." Thus was this second sister of the house of Arnott, Uriel the beautiful, but some called her Uriel the feared, for though her kindness blossoms brightest unto the poor, she too does her fury scorn and spurn those deserving of punishment. She was the second oldest of her sibs, though the youngest has yet to be met in this tale, for she shall enter Illorn's life in later chapters. However, her name shall be given now, for she was the lady of the house of Arnott. Her name was Queen Melina, Shield-strong, the warrior, who gained great fame and legend during the final battle of the wolves. For this, she was made lady of her ancient house. Illorn and company were abed within a place of healing. It was snowing without, on such a dark night, wherefore a fire was made before them in a hearth, providing them with warmth their sheets could not. When the barber came to see them, Illorn's bandages around his leg were replaced, and his wound was cleansed with a soft unguent. Emilay and Bajor were otherwise fine. They were fed and given access to the bathing rooms, which lacked all manner of privacy. Emilay did not like this, as he was often laughed at. However, Bajor minded nothing of it, for women often shared the same bath as men did. Oddmere, however, was not well. His wound had become badly infected, and unfortunately for Illorn, he had to listen to Oddmere's shouts and cries as his wound was cleansed and then burned. He was given new bandages, and his left eyelid was sewn shut. Despite having the most gruesome injury, he was promised a safe healing. A fortnight later, Uriel entered their room and bade them all leave, save Illorn, who was still not well to walk. He blushed and shut his lips, not knowing how to address the lady whilst unclathed beneath his sheets. "I trust you are well," she said to him. "It has been snowing heavily since you came here, at long last. I thought this winter would never show its colors." "Yes, I'm well," answered Illorn. "I do wish I could see the snow, but I'm afraid I cannot in this sun-hidden room." "You shall see it when you are well, when that day comes. But for now, you must rest." She approached him and felt his forehead, dragging her slender fingers through his auburn hair. "You look like your father," said she. "I'm sorry for what has happened." She then knelt and kissed his brow. In that moment, Illorn knew his love for her. Her golden hair showed its sheen against the light of dancing flames. Her smile, white like her white silk dress. Her skin was soft, and her lips were warm. "When we are free," said Illorn, "I thought you were waiting to judge us of our crimes." "You and your friends have committed no crimes, save Oddmere. Though I would like to say the same for him. He has betrayed our house by abandoning our mission to live off in the wilds like a beast." "What will you do to him, then?" asked Illorn. "Pray, he is slightly mad. I would not trust much from him." "We have sentenced him to wander forth into the mountains, to find the cave of Aullen. A fitting punishment, really. We are only commanding him to do what it was he attempted to run away from so long ago." "Is he gone, then?" "No, he has not been sent on that mission yet. We are not yet ready to deplore that task." "Then when? I must go too," said Illorn. He sat up, and his blanket fell to his hip. "You shan't go elsewhither," said Uriel. "You are to remain here and help defend Aletha, should the owls come." Illorn pouted. "I am truly to spend my life here, building walls and watching for these birds? That is no life I wish to live." Uriel then lost her smile and frowned upon touching his skin. "I have seen your many scars, Illorn. They are marks made by talons. Have you met with the owls and survived?" Illorn checked his body and saw the many white lines dragged across his skin. "On the night I lost my father, I was in the woods forlorn with none but my senseless friend. I was attacked by the owls and defended myself and him from them until my sword was too heavy to be swung. Shortly after, I was saved by whom you call a traitor." Uriel touched his skin and felt the scars. "These birds were small, perhaps babes that had just left the nest. Were they grown, you'd have been dead in moments." Illorn swallowed. He had not come to think of their age. The fire popped and adjusted as the burnt-away wood began to crumble into ash. Uriel stood and went to feed it more kindling. "Have you seen them?" asked Illorn. Uriel stopped in place and turned to him. "Have you seen the owls?" She dropped her kindling before her and left to his bedside. "You wish to know the form of the owls?" she asked. Illorn nodded. "You do not wish to know the form of the owls," she assured him. "They are not beautiful things. I am a beautiful thing. Why do you wish to know the look of an ugly thing when you are in the presence of a beautiful lady such as me? Perhaps I am not enough to satisfy you." Illorn laid thence agape. "I mean you no offense." "Do not ask of the owls, not of their form. One hurt in mind and body would suffer no healing if you had knowledge of their dark shape." She stared at him long and without warmth, and anon smiled and turned to rekindle the fire. When she returned to him, she kissed him on his forehead and said lastly, afore leaving, "Do not speak of the owls in my presence. A handsome man as you should be asking different things." 3 days would pass, and on the third day Illorn was given a crutch to assist him in walking. He first went to check his bag and found that all of his things remained untouched. This included his bow and the sword and shield he had been given by his father. He asked of Emilay, but was told he was employed to assist the Wrights in hewing wood for lumber, and for this he laughed, for he knew him lame in such tasks. He shall soon be ousted from that work, Illorn thought, and so merrily he limped toward the bathing house, only then realizing how terrible sore his leg felt. When therein, he unclad himself and enjoyed this time alone, but only for short moments, for as he approached the pool, he found Oddmere sluicing his shoulders with the hot water. "Greetings, Illorn," said he. "I trust you are apt to enter without aid." Illorn let himself ease into the pool, wherewith the brown and black of his skin sullied the lime-tinted waters, like a puff of ash and smoke. He had not bathed in many days, though he did not realize his filthiness until entering the water. "Apparently so," he guessed, splashing water upon his face. They sat still for some moments, enjoying the warmth of the pool. "I am sorry for all that has happened, sir," said Illorn. "I realize this is much of my fault." "I prithee do not apologize again. It has begun to be the only thing you say to me, it seems." "I'm sorry." Illorn stopped himself and laughed. "I apologize that I cannot stop apologizing." Yes, Illorn, I understand." Oddmere shifted closer to him. "Now that is not to say that I don't have ill news that makes me rue many things. Though I dast say, I do not rue our first meeting. I'm grateful to have met you, Illorn. That cave was a dark place, and at last I feel as though myself again. Solitude is a dark thing, mind you. No other thing is so dark or evil. No torture or wound of body can equal the pain of a forlorn soul. To be alone, Illorn, is deadlier than any beast. It will tear you apart, and you will die an able man. For to be without company is to be without food or water. It is as necessary for life as the air we breathe and the sun we bathe within." "I would not know, as I have never felt so lonely," said Illorn. "Verily, though to be a forlorn man, I think, is necessary for a while. But only so you may better empathize with the lonely people in this world, for there are many. Forby it takes a special man to see the wounds rent by solitude." "The wounds left by solitude, you mean?" asked Illorn. "I have been a man grown for some time, though neither my father nor my mother has taught me of such hurts." "All people have them, but they are invisible. They are cuts and tears and eviscerations of the soul. They make us who we are, though many go their entire lives without ever healing them." Illorn looked into the water, wondering if he had such scars. "The grief you feel for your father is one such hurt, Illorn. This is a wound of the soul that you feel. Though you cannot see it, it affects you strongly." Illorn's head began to hurt from the talk of invisible wounds, and he changed the subject. "I was told that you were commissioned to ranger into the mountains." Oddmere dipped his arms back into the water. Suddenly the pool felt a lot cooler. "Yes, I was," said he. "I am to leave in 2 days, and with me shall come Bajor and a company of 10 men and women." "Is that enough?" asked Illorn. "For what they want, perhaps," Oddmere chuckled. "I suppose I fear death. After all, it is their belief that slaying Aullen will end this war." "Will it?" asked Illorn. "Just because Aullen is the largest of birds, does it truly mean killing him will end the fighting? Perhaps we're not meant to be in this place. I mean, what more land do we need? To oust an entire species from their home to make room for our own? It does not seem right to me." "And yet you wish to kill Felfowl as well, Illorn," said Oddmere. "You don't want to kill them, yet you want revenge for your father, no?" Illorn fisted his hands and stood. "It is a conflicting feeling, I know, to wish peace and yet want death. But I do not think my father is dead, for I still feel his life in the wind. If you understand my queer words." "I understand them well enough," Oddmere laughed. "But come on, we have been in these waters long enough. To work we go." 2 days later, Illorn found himself before the northern gates, standing before Oddmere, who sat upon a horned horse with Bajor at his side. The airs were cool, and an inch of snow covered the ground and cloaked the roofs of Aletha ever so delicately. The heavens above them were gray, though they did not mourn and instead forewarned them of coming snow and coldness. Therefore, Oddmere and company kept with them thick blankets and dried wood for nights and meals. However, their food was small, and they were expected to hunt their own game in the wilderness. "Do not miss me, Illorn," said Oddmere, "and do not irk these men and women, son of my brother," said he to Emilay. Illorn held forth his bow and presented it before Oddmere, though he rejected it. "It is yours, and though I do not have one of its like any more, I will do fine without it. Now trust me, the soul of that weapon is stronger than you believe. Do not lose it, and it shall do you well." Illorn bowed to him and put it around his back. "I have baked you these," said Emilay, holding 2 loaves of bread to both Oddmere and Bajor. "Wheat is rare, but I snatched them. They are what I made. The Walrites did not like me with them after a while. They said I was useless, and that I should by accident trip, or use their walls for support. They would fall like hewn tree and ruin their work. They said many mean things, they did. But to you I give this. Take it." Oddmere and Bajor took each a loaf and downed warm smiles. "Though you anger me, my friend Emilay, I'm glad to have met you. Your kindness proves to me that you are truly the son of my brother," said Oddmere. "Now then," said Bajor, "I do not know you well, but I thank you, and now rue having assailed you with arms. But should I return, I shall grant you a gift for my grief, and blessed be my brother. I wish him to be here now, but I blame only myself for his death. So I shall part this way with your uncle and repent what I have done to you." "Do not worry," said Illorn. "Find Aullen, and should you see him, slay him and return with a smile. That is the only gift I wish from you, for if he truly harmed my father, then his blood is my only want." Bajor laughed. "Very well, son of Giborn. We bid you good-bye and good healing. We shall meet again in some months, and I will bring with me what you ask." "Fare freely," said Illorn. "I wait the stories you both shall have for me when you return." And so Bajor and Oddmere departed in company with a quest to find the King of Owls, he whose shadow gloomed the world with fear and angst. His cry was like 1,000 horns, and his feathers are sharp like knives. At all times he was hungering for flesh and corpses, though yet his want for blood had not been satisfied. The mountains were his home, and so too were the valleys yonder and before this place. Therein all was his game, and nothing could be equal to him. He was Aullen, the ancient bird that dominated this land.